The sun hung at its zenith, beating down upon the slopes of Mount Cithaeron, turning the forest into a shimmering tapestry of green and gold. Actaeon, the famed hunter, paused to wipe the sweat from his brow, his heart swelling with the thrill of the chase. He was no ordinary mortal. He was the son of Aristeus and Autono, and a student of the wise centaur Chiron, who had taught him every nuance of the forest, every trick of the quarry, and every command to his magnificent pack of 50 hounds. They were his pride, a tireless, perfectly trained multitude, each one named, beloved, and utterly loyal. That day, the hunt had been successful, and Actaeon, exhausted, sought a place of cool repose. He strayed from his companions, following a faint, murmuring sound, the promise of fresh, mountain water. Unbeknownst to him, he was trespassing on ground consecrated by the divine, a secret, moss-laden grotto veiled by thick-hanging willows and ancient, gnarled oaks. It was a place where no mortal foot was ever meant to tread. Within that secluded sanctuary, the chaste goddess Artemis, daughter of Zeus and Leto, was taking her midday bath. Her bow and quiver were hung upon a nearby tree, and her virgin nymphs attended her, shielding her from the profane gaze of the world. The pool was crystal clear, fed by a cool spring, reflecting the goddess's flawless form and the dazzling moonlight she sometimes wore like a cloak. Actaeon, parting the final curtain of vine and leaf, stepped into the clearing. His weary eyes instantly beheld the sight, the radiant, terrifying beauty of the unclothed goddess. It was an instant of profound, unsought sacrilege. Artemis, alerted by the rustling of leaves, looked up. Her eyes, usually as bright and calm as the moon, blazed with cold, furious indignation. Mortals had been punished for less. Though he had stumbled upon her involuntarily, the sight of her pure form was a transgression that could not be forgiven. She was the mistress of the wild, but also the epitome of fierce, unforgiving modesty. Her hand, swift as an arrow loosed from her bow, scooped up a handful of water. Before Actaeon could utter a single word, a plea for mercy, an apology, or a cry of shock, she dashed the sacred drops into his face. Now boast, if you can, the goddess's voice rang out, sharp and metallic, that you have seen Artemis unrobed. But if you would tell the tale, you must first become such as are marked for prey. The curse took hold instantly and violently. His neck stretched taut, his scalp sprouted harsh, bony antlers, and his hands and arms elongated into slender, trembling forelegs. His cloak of fine linen became a dappled, reddish hide, and his feet transformed into cloven hooves. He was suddenly taller, leaner, and utterly silent. Actaeon, the prince and hunter, was gone, replaced by a magnificent, fear-maddened stag. Terror, primal and overwhelming, seized his transformed heart. He fled, his new hooves slipping on the mossy ground. Only one thing remained of the man, the sharp, clear mind trapped within the cervine skull. He saw his reflection in the spring, a wild, majestic beast, and wept silent tears he could no longer voice as sobs, only as the desperate, pathetic bleating of a hunted creature. It was then he heard them, the familiar, ringing bay of his own beloved hounds. They were Melampus, Blackfoot, and Echnabates, Tracker, Dromas, Runner, and Lacon, Spartan, the leaders of the pack. They had caught the scent, the strong, fresh odor of a large stag, and their hunter's instinct, honed by Actaeon himself, took over. They were 50 voices of thunder and fury, no longer Actaeon's companions, but his killers. The chase that ensued was the most agonizing, tragic hunt in all of Greek lore. Actaeon, in the body of the stag, recognized every dog, every name, every baying challenge. He longed to cry out, to call them by name, to command them to stop, but the sound that issued from his throat was only a stag's mournful cry, a sound that only fueled the hound's predatory fervor. "It is I, your master, Actaeon," his mind screamed, but the forest heard only the panic of the prey. He ran faster than he ever had, through bramble and thicket, a king of the forest pursued by his own loyal subjects turned savage executioners. The hounds gained on him, their love and loyalty instantly forgotten, replaced by a terrible, blind lust for the kill. They saw only the stag that was now Actaeon, the finest quarry they had ever pursued. Finally, worn down by fear and exhaustion, he stumbled. The pack fell upon him in a terrible, glorious frenzy of teeth and claws. They tore at his flanks, his throat, and his legs, Hylias and Theron leading the merciless assault. Actaeon made no resistance, accepting the savage end inflicted by those he had nurtured, trained, and loved. As his lifeblood stained the green earth, the last flicker of his human consciousness faded, consumed not by the cruelty of the hounds, but by the cold, unyielding wrath of the goddess. The hounds, victorious, stood over their kill, looking around for their master, the hunter who always praised them after a fine kill. They could not find him, and their baying turned into a confused, mournful howling, searching for Actaeon on the very body they had just annihilated. The fate of Actaeon served as a chilling, brutal reminder to all mortals that the gods' power was absolute, their privacy sacred, and their vengeance swift and complete.